Okay, so we're here at the Boeing stand with Josh from ForeFlight. It's actually been 5 years since ForeFlight came into Europe, so we thought we'd ask Josh about how people get started with ForeFlight and a few of the tips and tricks you could employ. So Josh, what's the best way to get started with?
Yeah, I mean, really the best way to get started with ForeFlight is downloading it and just playing with it. You're not going to hurt anything that's on the map, and that's a common misconception from a lot of people in general, is they're going to do something wrong. You're not going to. So my best advice would be to start on the map page, because that's where you're going to get the most information. You're going to use that for planning purposes as well as in-flight use. So from the map, everything is actually tappable. So if I wanted to get information about this airport, I can just tap directly on it, and then I'll get a sidebar that pops up that has information like the frequencies, weather information. For instance, this airport doesn't have a METAR, but it'll show us information about nearby airports. We can get runway information, any procedure information that exists from that airport, as well as check NOTAMs, specifically about the airport or any information that's going to be nearby in the flight information region. It's also completely customizable, so say if you didn't want information on the map, like maybe you feel overwhelmed by the airspace, you can just turn it off directly on the map, because we have a digital map here. If you're curious about getting information, we have a couple other gestures, like we just tapped. If you actually tap and hold, you'll get everything that's underneath your finger in that point, starting with the current location, airspace information, and then nearby waypoints, airports, and nav aids, all on the map view. You can also customize the map in terms of maybe you're used to looking at a chart specifically for the UK. If you go to the layer selector, you can choose one of the different layers that are in here. For instance, we have everything that we offer on here, but there's a Europe VFR NATS layer. That will actually be the 1 to 500 chart that exists for the UK. You can fly with it on its own, or turn off the aeronautical map, and then you're able to see the chart that you're used to seeing on a regular basis directly in ForeFlight. So the other way that you can work with ForeFlight is you can use that same tap function to do flight planning. So if I tap on the airport and then I do add to route, that's going to be our first point, and then we're going to look for the next airport that we're going to go to, and tap there and add it to our route. So we've got a direct route here, but say we want to make sure we hit some of these VFR reporting points, or we want to take a detour. You can press and hold on the route line, drag it and drop it, and then it will show you all the nearby points that are on the map. You just tap on the one you want, and then it puts it right on the map for you. So now I've got a route that's already built in. Say I didn't want that point, press and hold on that point, and I can drag it right off. I can either delete it, or I can just choose another point nearby, and that will complete a route. The nice thing with ForeFlight is all of the filing is also included, and we file IFR and VFR throughout the world, including IFR and VFR in Europe. And you can do that fairly easily by going to this FPL button. This is our flight plan drawer. You can do send to flights. And in here, you'll just pick your aircraft, set your estimated time of departure, and go to proceed to file, and away you go. So ForeFlight is an IFR and a VFR tool. A lot of people get confused and think that we're only there for IFR, but we work with both. The thing where we really exceed, especially on the IFR side, is making it easier for you to plan a route. So for instance, if I was going from another airport set, we'll choose something else. So we'll go from Norwich, and say we want to go across into the Netherlands. We have some different options that you can use that are directly on the map view. For instance, the best one to use is something like the routes view, which will actually try to find a Eurocontrol valid route for you so that you're able to file that within Europe. And we show multiple different routes, including previously filed routes, but as you'll see, many of them go out of the way. This will take into account things like what airspace is open and closed right now, what are the winds doing, and then doing that Eurocontrol validation, which it explains directly in that section. If we select the route, It will tell us what flight level we have to fly at, and we're flying in a DA-40. So we'll update that to 050, and then we've got our route directly on the map. And if we hide the airspace, it makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. We've got that point where we're crossing the FIR, so it took that into account, so when you're doing the filing, it'll be there. And same way, if we send this to the flights view, we can just file our flight plan like normal. But if you're trying to get things like, say, approaches or departure information, we've got a procedures tab, and this will do things like allow us to select which approach we want. So say we're coming into the ILS for runway 24. What this will do is it will pull up either Jeppesen charts or a local government chart, depending on which one you have on your subscription. And you can set things, including your minimums for that airport, depending on the aircraft you're flying, and do add to route. That will also put the chart directly on the map if you have a Pro Plus or Performance subscription. So that way you can follow along and see where your aircraft is. So the goal at ForeFlight is to make things easier for pilots. We always want to think about safety. One way we do that is trying to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information as we can, cover as much information as we can throughout the entire world, and also come up with updates on a regular basis. We release every month. So we always have something new coming out, whether that's to improve something we already have or to add some new sort of safety functionality. For instance, not long ago we added airspace alerts in. We actually have some features that are coming out to indicate if an aircraft is on the end of the runway or not ahead of you if it's got ADS-B information. So we're always trying to think ahead of what are the things people may not be able to do while they're there. But really, we're trying to make things easier for people too. The easier it is for people to fly the plane and get the information they need, the safer things. One really nice part about ForeFlight is we do have a global support team. So we've got people in the US, we've got them in Europe, we've got them in Australia and New Zealand as well, and even spread further than that. So we basically have 24/7 support. It's all available via email, team@foreflight.com, so you can get a hold of us whenever you need help, including filing support too. But we also have different ways to learn. We do webinars regularly, including a getting started with ForeFlight webinar, so that way you can learn more about ForeFlight as well as videos that we have. And biggest suggestion with either one of those is if you're watching the video, have your iPad there with you, see something new, pause, try it on your iPad, so that way you can build the muscle memory for it.
Everything is on the iPad, but how does that integrate into the cockpit?
Yeah, so the cool thing about ForeFlight is we work with many different avionics providers around the world, whether portable or installed in the aircraft. For instance, if you want to be able to transfer a flight plan over, you can do that with certain manufacturers. If you want to get ADS-B or FLARM traffic in information, you can see that directly within ForeFlight to get traffic alerts. So we try our best to incorporate with as many as we can. We even have and utilize the open GDL90 protocol. So providers from around the world can use that. We have information on our website, and you can bring that in, whether you have a Garmin, an Avidyne, Dynon, Air Avionics, or others.
So what would be the very best way that somebody could introduce themselves to ForeFlight?
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, the best thing you can do is just play with it. You can do that with a 30-day free trial. You just go to foreflight.com. You can learn how to download the app from there, and then inside the app, you just sign up for a free 30-day account. And that's the easiest way to get started.
So this is all within the app? Where do you find the app? Just on the App Store?
Yeah, so it's only for iOS, so you'll find it in the Apple App Store. And you just download it. It'll ask you to set up an email address and a password, and that's it. You're good to go.